What is going on, guys? So Daniel here, back with another trade review, and yeah, let's just get right into it. As you can see, we're on the on the USDCAD on the 1 minute, and this trade is actually a trade that I found using my old strategy, and that's like the wonderful thing about gaining more and more experience in the Forex market is that the more strategies that you know, the more ways, the more setups that you can identify, the more ways that you can um, get into the market and get into different trades. And yeah, so this was a trade that this was a setup that I found using my old strategy, using more divergence rather than the strategy that we're developing at the moment. But I was analyzing the market, and I saw a setup, and I entered it. So yeah. Um, to start off, clearly we're in a on a short-term downtrend right now, but you can see that a bit of divergence is forming. You can see that lower low, lower low, lower low, and it was lower low, lower low, but now starting from around this area, you can see that the RSI is rising while price action is falling, right? So that's what we call divergence. And if we let it play for a little bit, right, it creates even more divergence. So I'll mark it so it's very clear. Yep, so you can see lower low, lower low, lower low, lower low, and the RSI is the opposite. Low low, higher low, higher low. This one is a bit lower, but the trend is upwards, right? And this is trending downwards, so that is what we call divergence. And if we let this play just a little bit more, right? So my ideal entry would have been right here once price crossed this 50 EMA right here, but I was analyzing other pairs at the same time. So, and this is the 1 minute chart. So if you're a minute late, then you miss it, right? So I didn't end up entering until 12:42. Yep, this candle, which is slightly higher than I would have wanted to enter, but it is what it is. I entered around here. My stop is just going a little bit lower than the low, and I'm going for about 2R in this trade. Might not get it, but that's what I was going for as per the rules of this strategy, right? So let me adjust this a little bit. Yeah, so as you guys can see, I'm just gonna play this. So at this point, right, this was actually the high of the trade. But if you look in the RSI at the bottom, you can clearly see that it's actually forming divergence, bearish divergence back the other way, right? Because you can see this is the high, and then you have a lower high all the way over here. While price action, this is the high that corresponds to this high. This high, higher high, higher high. While high, lower high, lower high. So we're actually forming divergence in the opposite direction, which is a sign to me that we're going to be looking to turn back around and go. We either turn back around and go back down in the downward direction, or price is just going to chop around, right? As you can see, price has been pretty choppy in this area, right? It's kind of just moving up and down, moving up and down. and then it does create a high, but overall it is pretty choppy, right? So that was an indication for me to get out of this trade or look to get out of this trade. But again, I was doing other things while trading. I think I was cooking breakfast or lunch, probably lunch because it's around 12. So I think I went to go cook lunch while this peak happened, and when I returned, I noticed that there was divergence forming the other opposite direction, right? So I wasn't just gonna. When I got back, I think I was in the red around here, and I wasn't just going to just close the position just because I saw divergence in the other direction. I still had a bit of faith in the trade just because you know um, it would be pretty quick for that divergence to have taken shape and started to move, but it was definitely possible. Um, but I held in, I waited, um, and again, price did come back up and make another high. I don't remember if it was this candle or this candle, either this push up or this push down, that I actually exited the market, but it was one of these two, right? But as you can see, it was only about point 0.7. I got about point 0.7 on this trade. So normally what I would have done, right, is once price got to about 1%, I would have locked in half my profit and then moved my stops to break even. So I had no more risk on the table. It was just all profit, right? But since I saw this divergence forming against me, I decided to, cut my trades early, and just lock in some profit. So at this point is when I took out half of the trade and then moved my stops to break even. Yeah, it was around point 0.7. And then if I just let this play out, yeah, so it hit my stop around here. I got out around here. Yeah, it came down, and then it hit my stop around here, and then price actually did end up turning back around and moving to the downside. But let's just see if on my perfect entry, if how this trade would have gone, right? So I would have entered around the beginning of this candle. Put a stop would have been around here, and see, this is a much better risk reward ratio, right? Because I still would have been aiming for 2, but I would have ended up getting I would have ended up getting around 2, right? So at same thing at 1R, when price got up to here, I would have locked in half the profit and then moved my stop to break even. But actually, after doing that, I probably would have been stopped out before I even ended up reaching this 2R, right? But if I hadn't done that, if I was just going for 2R, I would have actually hit my 2R, right? So either way, whether or not I take half out at 1R or just waited till 2R, it was still much better for me to have entered with my perfect entry rather than entering late and a little bit higher, because that skewed my risk to reward, and that I left a lot of money on the table just by doing that. It's unfortunate that I was a little late to the market, but it is what it is. Sometimes that happens. Um, so yeah, I just really wanted to go over this trade with you guys just because the same way that I use divergence to enter the trade is the same way that I use divergence to exit the trade, because although, yes, I had exited the market around this area, and price does come back up to this area, so I didn't have to exit here. I could have exited it here before price started to move down, but I don't know that, in while the market's moving in the live market. I don't know that that's going to happen, right? So yeah, that was just a quick trade that I took. And yeah, I'll see you guys in the next one.